Welcome to Cowboys and Gangsters. We are getting ready to go up north.
Come on.
We're going to be going to Vancouver. It's going to be Cowboys and Gangsters and Russians.
And Russians.
We're going to a Russian church and Ukrainians.
And Russians at the same time.
So we're excited. We got
Come on.
our Russian homies up there and our friends up there, brothers in Christ, and
Yes.
looking forward to going up there and fellowshipping and breaking bread and just catching up. And
Yeah, it's their
excited.
30-year anniversary up
30
there. It's a
years.
ministry, and then that's a legacy and
Church of Truth. we're
Church
talking
of
about.
Truth.
Yeah.
And we've sent kids from here. You've sent some kids up there.
Yeah,
Your
my
own-
daughter went through internship up there, and man, they're a blessing. Cool story. Yeah, they were here in Medford when COVID was going on.
Yeah, just a few of them rolled into town,
They-
heading to Sacramento, or
No, so every year at the end of their internship, they all go on to mission trips all
Yeah.
over the world,
just take off.
and the world shut down in 2020.
Come on.
So they weren't able to fly all over the world. So they were like, hey, their pastor had drove through Medford and they stopped her for coffee. And Pastor Sergey was like, he could sense the oppression. He could sense like, hey, there's some spiritual warfare going on in this
Some
little
real stuff.
town. There's like something going on here. And so he went back up there, and when they figured they couldn't, they're like, hey, we're going to send our missions on the mission trip down to Medford, Oregon. And, of course, FCM is right here. And I get out of my car one day, and I can sense the presence of the living God, man.
Come
And
on.
I'm always like
Come
trying to
on.
get in the church and find. I'm like, what's going on around here? It's like, man, this isn't the feeling I get when I get
Sensing
out.
it outside the
This
church,
isn't the
huh?
outside usually. This is the. And so I look around and I see all these kids out in the park across from our
Come on.
church, and man, I know they're Christian. I mean, they're worshiping. They're in little groups praying and they're interceding. And I just walk up and introduce myself.
What happened
and,
to Medford?
man, I'm like, come on. And anyways, and so we started a relationship, and that's been almost coming up 4 years now, and
Come on.
we've had a relationship, and they come down here. A lot of the young men come down here and stay at my house, and we fellowship. I do a lot of mentorship and discipleship, some discipleship with it,
Yeah.
and so it's been amazing. A little partnership there. So
Yeah.
we're going up there in their neck of the woods. So
Yeah, one of them was here yesterday. Just rolled in, and we got to throw him on podcast for a minute, and just pick his brain and stir him up and send him off. He's heading down to Phoenix, Arizona, and now we're heading up Vancouver tomorrow,
yes.
and it's going to be awesome, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's-
I'm looking forward to it. I believe God's gonna, refresh it. Just bring a refreshing spirit. And 30 years, man.
Come on.
I mean, if
Bring
anybody's
around
been
the
in ministry for 1 year,
Yeah, you know what it's
Come
like.
on.
So,
being in ministry for 5 years, you're really,
and a huge chunk of their interns come from Russia and Ukraine, right?
they come from all over.
But
Yeah,
from all over
Yeah.
the world. So they have
And
a collaboration, and so it's really cool to have pastor
Yes.
have all these connections and these kids and these young people and pastors and really like a whole new group of people that we get to influence and also get to influence us, which is
Yeah.
really unique.
Yeah, it is unique, and I'm looking forward to it. And by the way, man, they know how to eat right, man.
Come
They
on.
got some amazing food, man.
Oh, come on.
They don't do McDonald's and things like that, man.
What?
No, bro. They cook it up, bro. Like hey, man. They just know how to do it right, man. Their
Wow.
hospitality is on point.
Well, look forward to eating that.
Their food is on point. Yeah, no, it's good. So, yeah, man. The coffee though, man, that's a big thing.
Coffee.
Got the coffee, which to each their own. That's yeah. But we really, I'm excited. I expect God to move in a mighty way, in a big way, and I think we're gonna be as the Lord leads. We'll be filming some episodes up there, and
Yeah, we
Let's
have
see.
he has a screen printing company with some of those guys up there that he has the equipment, and we started a screen printing line of Rise, Kill, and Eat, fivefold, anointed apparel, FCM gear. So, see, all that will be coming out soon, or right now we're launching that, and then they'll be printing up there and podcast stuff. They've got some kids up there that like 750,000 followers and like 2 or 3 million views on some of their short films. So, they're short the YouTube Shorts, and so to be connecting with young guys that are in the flow, and bring some OGs up there, and and bring some content and years of experience to some of these conversations we're going to be able to have, as well as some youthfulness to what we're trying to do. Right, we're trying to reach a generation, and one of them's the inspiration for the focus of this, like because we're old OG, like we're like staying out of this, right? We're rednecks, we're gangster, we're from different, like we're just gonna stay to the pulpit. And one of the young guys told Pastor Chris, when I look for hope, I look in my phone. And we're like, then let's get where they're at, right? Like there's a platform and we're not there, and the world's using that, and the kids are looking for things that they can't find potentially because we're not even there. So now, like, let's go.
Yeah, and they need those OGs. Like, I think the cool thing about, you know, what I'm so blessed and what I think needs to happen more just is the generations getting together. You know, like, it's pretty powerful. You know, the enemy loves to tell, you know, either the older generation, hey, you got nothing in common with these younger generations, and you know, sometimes we don't need to have everything in common with them. Sometimes it's good for them not to have things. We got that one thing that needs to be in common.
Fire comes down, right?
God, right? Like
in the same fire.
And we need, and they need us, and the enemy works on them too. And like, hey, they don't really have that. You know, it's like, no, there is really powerful things that generationally, which I know there's a podcast coming for that as well. I've got some amazing testimonies getting around young people and intentionally placing young people around old people, and even older people than me. You know, I had a ministry where I would take young people. Come on, Pastor. That's a good point. I used to take them into convalescent homes, man. Young men, and they would hate. They were like, in the beginning, they'd be like, "Why are you taking me in here?
Yeah.
What are we going in here for?" And I would just see, things get broke off. Amazing things happen, man. Because, you know, the younger generation needs an older generation. The older generation needs a younger generation. We need each other, and there's been you know, this dividing and divisiveness. You know that, you know, and it's nothing new.
Yeah.
But I think more so than ever, we need to you know, close that gap in these generations. And
well, Solomon's son, you know, was that Rehoboam, and then you had Jeroboam that divided the kingdom right there. But you know, the people come and say, your dad, you know, we built a temple, we built a lot of stuff under your dad Solomon, but it's been a heavy yoke. And the old guys are like, you know, the people are right. And the old counsel was, let's loosen the yoke. And the young guys were like, let's be harder on them. Let's just get out of them. And like, and he turned away the wisdom of the old counsel and just thought, oh, let's just do it the new way. Well, there's wisdom in the multitude of counselors.
Yes.
And when he got rid of the old and just listened to the new, he put heavier burdens, and the kingdom divided. And like like three guys, Saul, David, Solomon, and then it's Israel and Judah. Like, we lost the connection because of the lack of wisdom, and that was the wisdom of a generation that's passed. And this present generation, we would all say, needs a wisdom that the old have.
Yes.
But the culture's like, stay away from each other, and it's a demonic plan.
Absolutely, it absolutely is. Well, and then on the flip side of that, when that happens in young people, the old people feel as though they don't have no purpose.
Yeah. Because
a big part of purpose as you grow older is to pour into the younger.
Oh, wow.
And when that's taken away from you, then you like, what am I here? Like, what am I here for? You know, I'm not mentoring nobody. I'm not giving these gifts and this knowledge and this wisdom because nobody wants to receive it. I don't have anybody, and so it's a double-edged sword because it can cut both ways, right? It's going to hurt the younger, but it also is going to hurt the older generation. So that's a whole man. That's going to be that's a whole man. That's a powerful, but it's true, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I know that's your heart, Pastor.
Yeah.
Both our heart is young adults. You know, we really want to, you know, that's we feel like the Lord is both leading us for, you know, a lot of discipleship, mentorship, you know, internship, you know, teaching what we know between the pastoral, you know, staff and people that are in our experience. You know, we've got, you know, 150 years of experience, you know, of like pastoring and preaching and teaching and there's a generation, just as we were talking with AJ, you know, like there's a generation that's hungry for that,
Right.
and we wanna be able to help, you know, just equip them and disciple them, and it's a burning on my heart right now. You know, speaking of which, when I was up at the one of the conferences up at Church of Truth, I was actually preaching at G4T one night, and before I got on this to go preach during worship, I had a vision about what we're talking about, and that's really where my heart started burning.
Yeah.
And the vision was, I saw some guys lead, like in a desert leading, like I saw a bunch of people following, and I was asking the Lord, like, what is this following, like the scene of like a bunch of people following other people out in this desert area, and what I saw was, and I was like, Lord, what am I looking at? And the Lord was showed me like it was that generation that was gonna follow Joshua and Caleb back to occupy and back to fulfill the promises of God that the previous generation didn't. And the Lord spoke to my heart that, you know, the previous generation, man, they had apathy. They're too busy being entertained. We look at our culture, we look at our society, we look at the way things are going. And judgment begins in the house of the Lord. And like the Lord is like, man, I've given liberty here for you guys to do things and to put, and like you rather be entertained. Too many men want to sit around and play fantasy football league and this and that. By the way, I'm not totally against that. I watch football, but my point is, I'm not going to neglect kingdom for football. And so like the thing is like, and so like when he was showing me this, like we don't get a lot in the Word of God telling us what was going on in that 40 years. But we do know this, that there was a generation being equipped to go finish the job.
Come on.
And so like that was what I saw, and from that moment on, man, God put a burning in my heart, like, hey, this next generation is a generation that I'm going to use to occupy and to go and possess the promises that I've given for this great nation of the United States of America.
Come on.
And to influence the world as this country has done. And I don't know about you, but I'm tired of this, our nation influencing the world with pornography, influencing the world with divisive material, influencing the world with all of these different, you know, divisive, topics and things. Like, we used to influence the world by our integrity and by our morality, our virtues, by, you know, being united as a country, you know. And that's going to be, there's a generation that's being raised up that's going to do it with the banner of Jesus Christ, with the banner of the gospel, with the banner of the blood. And so, you know, that is our heart, man. And so, you know, that's our heart, to reach these young, you know, most of our, you know, my kids are in that, you know, they're in that age group, and a lot of, you know, and so we're starting to build that team. So
as you were saying that, I was thinking there is a new young generation coming up. But then, you know who was leading them was two OGs.
Right.
And two old guys were going in.
Right.
You know, and they
were
like
80, right? Or something like that.
Years old, like, they're like, man, and Joshua and Caleb are these stallions that are willing to believe the promises and willing to minister and work with the younger generation. They're like, no, I'm done with them. Like, I don't want to be a part of it. You know, I'm old school or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, as you started this line right here, like, what's the key that people could use to unlock this generational gap? And I think it's, number one, older generation being willing to humble themselves and put themselves in a position to need, because it's you offering young guys but needing young guys, and then them turning around and desiring to be input into, because like I see it, like when the older guys are asked questions, they have answers. But when nobody's asking, they don't give any answers. And so if you're younger, it's time for you to say, I need to want some wisdom and ask. And it's available. Like the generational gap is real, but like the generations are there to seek wisdom. And if we'll just press in, like the Bible kind of pursuing each other, it's amazing how this thing works pretty quickly. And it's the willingness to like sacrifice. Like you're going up to Vancouver to pour into these guys again. But we're going up with a relationship opportunity, asking them for help.
Absolutely.
And it's a gap bridger. Help.
Yeah.
I need your help. And like, we come to each other and find, this is cool.
Yeah.
And if we didn't want their help, or they didn't want our help, or asking for it, there would remain this void that we couldn't cross.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool to be in a spot where people, young guys, are saying, "Hey, can you
Yeah.
mentor me, Pastor?" Like literally saying, "Will you disciple me?
Yeah.
Will you be a pastor to me in this time and give me some nuggets, wisdom, revelation, help guard me?" I heard one yesterday saying, "Hey, Pastor, if I'm YouTubing and you hear me off course, would you rebuke me?" Like, come on. If you're a younger generation and you're like, "I don't need older generation," you're a fool.
Yeah.
You're a fool.
By the Bible tells us that. Proverbs 18:1, right? Like
Come on.
he who hates, correction is stupid. That's literally what it says. I'm not,
Yeah.
So yeah, you are a fool. You're stupid if you hate correction and don't want that in your life.
And if you're younger and you're like, we as a culture are like all about peers. So we put kids in school together and they're all age grouped out. So it's all about peers. But when you're young and running with the young bucks that don't know what they're talking about or what they're doing, they just have energy, you usually get misdirected. When you're running with the old guys who don't have the energy or the effort or the drive, you often don't do anything. But if you can
Right.
link those,
Yes.
and so we're seeing that with the many guys that I've experienced that with in the last 20 years. Dickie is one of those guys that like cares and will invest his life into a younger generation. And if they want it, then they find incredible blessing.
Yeah.
And keeps young guys from doing stupid stuff sometimes, and the old guys from becoming apathetic, complacent, sitting around doing nothing.
Yes. Yeah, man, what an awesome, God's design. I mean, we see it throughout the scripture, and it's so important. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man, to do more of it in the next level type. I just think it's important, man. Like we gotta, and for me, back to Joshua and Caleb leading that group with the thing that is impressive about Caleb and Joshua is like all that time had passed and they didn't give up on the promise. Right? They didn't give up. And so that's what's really impressive to me is this 40 years go by and they were eager and ready to get back to the promises of God. And what happens with OG sometimes they get to a certain point in time like, well, that's not for me no more. Like, that's done. They're like, no, we're going to go back. And they believe so much in it. They believed as much in that day that they went back to go conquer those giants as they did in the day where they were almost going to be killed and stoned for wanting to go in there and conquer those giants.
Come on.
And it's like the way that they stood on their faith. And that's why that generation was willing to go. That wasn't willing, God took care of them, but that new generation was willing to follow them into the battle. And if you're out there and you're old, somebody might just think, man, they've given up on their promises. And you've given up on the promises of God. And you're looking at the condition of our world and our nation. You're looking at the condition of the body sometimes of Christ. And you're like, you're like, man, for what? Mm-hmm. Jesus, come take me, right? Like we want out of here. No. You need to stick to the promises of God. This is a nation founded on the principles and the virtues of the Bible and of believers, and we need to stick to those things. And you need to understand that God is not done with this nation. Mm-hmm. God is still doing things. God is still on the work. And there's a generation that needs to see and they need to have hope. And they're looking to that older generation to really see if they're walking out what they believe, just like Joshua and Caleb did. Mm-hmm. So that's my word for you, older generation. I want to challenge you and encourage you and ask you, are you believing the promises of God? And are you willing to lead in those areas for people to and especially for this new young generation, so that they can have hope in those promises. Because as a man of God, you don't get to retire.
Come on.
You don't get to pack your bags and say, okay, I put in my work back then. No, there's always work to do. There's always things to do. So that would be my encouragement, Pastor, for those OGs.
Oh, geez. Awesome.
We'll tune back in. We're gonna let you know, man. Like up there, we'll do another check-in once we do make it up north.
Yeah. We'll keep in touch, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us on Cowboys and Gangsters Wilderness Cry. Have a good day.